They mocked his scrap starship until a human mechanic unleashed its true power. Ethan Voss had always been a man who preferred the company of machines to people. In the crowded streets of Krylon, Seven's trade hub, humans were a rarity, and everywhere he went, aliens sneered at his kind. Humans, they said, were weak, fragile, and unworthy of handling technology meant for interstellar conquest. Ethan ignored them most of the time. Let them talk. Let them mock. He knew what humans could do, and he had learned that it often went unnoticed until it was too late. The trade hub was a chaotic mess of metal and noise. Ships of every shape and size hovered in docking bays, some gleaming and perfect, others battered and patched together with scrap metal and alien ingenuity. This was the place where Ethan felt at home. Among discarded parts, burnt-out engines, and the occasional AI unit begging for repair, he found peace. Today, however, was different. Today, he had a purpose. He walked toward the far end of the auction hall, where a peculiar starship sat on display. Its hull was scratched, dented, and covered in patches of mismatched metal. Its engines were silent, dark, and looked more like abandoned ruins than functional starship technology. The alien auctioneer was shouting prices at a crowd that seemed more interested in laughing than buying. "Look at that human fool," muttered a Krylonian merchant, his three eyes narrowing. "He dares even to enter the bidding for that." Ethan smiled faintly. He didn't need their approval. He only needed the ship. Something about it had caught his attention weeks ago, when he first saw it listed in the Galactic scrap registry. Its design was unlike any other alien ship he had studied. Strange energy conduits ran along the hull, forming patterns that were almost organic. "Starting bid, 10,000 credits!" shouted the auctioneer. The crowd laughed. 10,000 for a ship that looked like it had survived 1,000 battles? Madness. Ethan raised his hand, holding out a small stack of credits. 10,000, he said calmly. "Ha! Did you just bid on that scrap?" One of the surrounding aliens sneered. "Do you even know how to pilot an alien vessel?" Ethan met the alien's gaze, his expression steady. "I know more than enough." The laughter grew louder. Humans rarely purchased alien technology. Most were content fixing their small, fragile craft. The idea of a human buying a ship of alien design, one that the galaxy considered junk, was almost offensive. 15,000, another alien bid, clearly trying to intimidate Ethan. 20, Ethan replied without hesitation. The auctioneer paused. 20? The human persists? Unbelievable. Within minutes the bidding escalated, but Ethan held firm. By the end of the auction, the hammer fell, and the ship was his. The aliens muttered and hissed, but Ethan didn't care. As the crate-like door slid open and he stepped toward his prize, he felt a thrill he hadn't felt in years. The starship was more than a machine. It had personality. Something deep in its hull seemed aware. The moment Ethan's hand touched the cold metal, he felt a faint vibration run through his fingertips, like a heartbeat. He grinned. "Let's see what you can really do," he whispered. Back at his small workshop hidden in the alleyways of the trade hub, Ethan began the real work. The ship was filthy, parts scattered, and systems offline. Yet, as he examined the hull, he noticed details no one else had seen. Tiny alien symbols ran along the energy conduits. Some were etched into the metal. Others glowed faintly under certain lights. "This isn't just junk," Ethan muttered to himself. Someone went to great lengths to hide something. He started with the engines, carefully removing debris and checking for structural integrity. Unlike most alien ships he had worked on, this one didn't respond to standard repair protocols. It seemed adaptive. The more Ethan probed, the more the ship seemed to react. The lights along the conduits brightened, as if acknowledging his touch. Hours passed. The workshop filled with the sounds of metal clanging, sparks flying, and the hum of activated circuits. Outside, aliens passed by, peeking in occasionally, still curious about the human who insisted on repairing a ship no one else wanted. "What are you doing in there, human?" a voice called from the doorway. It was Zorath, a frequent critic and self-proclaimed expert on alien ships. His tall frame cast a shadow over Ethan's workshop, and his tone was dripping with mockery. "Fixing your nightmares," Ethan replied casually, not looking up. Zorth laughed. "You'll destroy yourself!" "That ship is from the last galactic war. Its systems are unstable. Its AI core, if it even has one, is long dead. It will eat you alive." Ethan paused, finally turning to face the alien. "Or it might just surprise you," the alien snorted, clearly unconvinced. "Humans and their arrogance, you'll learn the hard way." Days turned into weeks. Ethan worked tirelessly, fixing wiring, replacing conduits, and slowly bringing the engines to life. Every obstacle he encountered was a challenge, but each also taught him more about the ship's unique design. Unlike rigid alien technology, the system seemed flexible, almost intelligent, responding to his intuitive adjustments. One night, after connecting a particularly complex energy loop, the ship emitted a soft glow. Panels lit up, and the hum of dormant machinery filled the workshop. Ethan's eyes widened. "It's alive," he whispered. "Not in the way we think, but it's aware."
The ship pulsed in response.
A faint vibration ran through the floor as if it was breathing. Ethan realized that this was no ordinary vessel. The AI core, buried deep within the hull, was waiting for someone capable enough to understand it. For the first time, he felt a connection with an alien ship that wasn't just mechanical. It was responsive. He ran simulations, feeding small commands into the system. Lights flashed, engines responded, and a holographic interface appeared in the cockpit, a language he didn't recognize, yet he understood intuitively. Every choice he made, every adjustment the ship adapted. "You like me?" he asked quietly, half joking. The ship hummed, lights flickering in what felt like agreement. Word of the human repairing the scrap Starship spread through the trade hub. Aliens came to watch, expecting failure. But every day, they saw progress. Panels lit up, systems powered on, and strange, unearthly energy radiated from the vessel. Zorth returned, this time with a small crowd. "Still working on that rust heap, human?" he jeered.
"It will explode before you even touch the cockpit." Ethan smiled, wiping sweat from his brow.
Today, the aliens watched in silence as he climbed into the cockpit, attaching himself to the ship's neural interface for the first test.
The ship vibrated gently, almost like a living creature acknowledging its new pilot. Then, with a deep, resonant hum, the engines ignited. The ship lifted slightly, hovering above the ground. The aliens gasped. A human, in a ship they called Scrap, was no longer grounded. Ethan's grin widened. "You wanted to see human failure," he said. "You're going to see human ingenuity." The workshop shook as the ship moved carefully, testing systems. Lights danced across the walls, and the strange symbols along the hull glowed brighter than ever. This was not a ship built for mere transportation. It was built for potential. And Ethan, against every expectation, was beginning to unlock it. By the time night fell over Krylon 7, the aliens had gone, whispering nervously among themselves. Ethan remained in the cockpit, exploring the ship's capabilities. Every button pressed, every lever pulled, revealed something new. Hidden compartments opened, energy conduits shifted. The ship seemed to guide him, responding in ways no manual or alien engineer could predict. Ethan leaned back, taking a deep breath. "You're going to change everything," he murmured. The ship pulsed softly, as if it agreed. And somewhere deep within the glowing hull, the AI core, the sleeping heart of the vessel, stirred. For the first time in decades, it had a pilot who understood it. The galaxy had mocked this human. They had laughed at the scrap Starship. But in the quiet of the workshop, surrounded by tools, wires, and alien tech, Ethan Voss had taken the first step in proving them all wrong. The human mechanic and his scrap Starship were just getting started. The next morning, the sun rose over Krylon, painting the dusty trade hub in golden light. The crowd of aliens that had mocked Ethan the day before whispered among themselves. They had come to watch a human work on a scrap starship, expecting disaster, yet the ship now hummed with life in a way they did not understand. Ethan returned to his workshop with renewed energy. Overnight, he had barely slept, thinking about the ship. It was not just alive, it was smart. Its systems seemed to respond to him in ways no ordinary ship could. The AI core, buried deep in its hull, was waiting for a pilot who could think, adapt, and, most importantly, understand. Ethan ran diagnostics on the ship's engines, energy conduits, and weapon systems. Each scan revealed something strange. Some systems were beyond even the most advanced alien technology he had studied. Others were dormant, waiting for the right combination of input. He realized that every time he made a small adjustment, the ship would react. Not randomly, but with intelligence. "You're more clever than you let on," Ethan said quietly to the ship as he tapped a panel. The conduits glowed in response, bright and rhythmic, almost like a heartbeat. By mid-morning, the first visitors arrived. Aliens from nearby docks came to gawk, shaking their heads in disbelief. Still playing with scrap, one of them sneered. It was Zorath again, flanked by a few of his friends. His three eyes glared at Ethan, and his voice dripped with sarcasm.
"This ship will never fly," Zorath declared. "You are meddling with technology older than your species."
One wrong move, and it will explode. Or worse, it will fry your fragile human brain. Ethan didn't respond immediately. Instead, he connected himself to the neural interface and focused. The ship's AI had remained quiet, observing him, testing his mind. He could feel it probing gently, trying to understand him, as much as he was trying to understand it. "You're wrong," he finally said, voice calm but firm. "You're the ones who can't see potential when it's staring at you." Zorath laughed, but there was a hint of unease in it. He had expected failure, but Ethan had already proven that the ship was not just salvageable, it was alive. Ethan spent the next few hours exploring the ship's hidden features. He discovered an unusual propulsion system, hidden behind reinforced panels. The design was unlike anything he had seen. Engine circuits that could shift and reshape themselves, adjusting thrust dynamically based on pilot input. "This is incredible," Ethan whispered. "No wonder the original pilots considered this a lost legend. They never trusted anyone to unlock it." The ship responded to his words with a gentle vibration. Panels lit up, and the humming increased in intensity. Ethan realized that the ship's AI was not only semi-sentient, it was judging him. It would reveal its secrets only if it believed he had the skill and courage to use them. Later that day, a commotion erupted outside the workshop. News of Ethan's progress had spread quickly. A rival alien crew, the Varkonians, arrived in their sleek, menacing ships. They had heard whispers about the human who was repairing the scrap starship, and they were determined to put him in his place. "Step aside, human," the Varkonian captain barked. "That ship is junk. We will show you what a real starship can do." Ethan watched from the cockpit, his fingers dancing over the controls. "Show me," he said simply. The Varkonian ships lined up in a circle around the workshop, engines humming, weapons charged. The aliens expected Ethan to panic, but he remained calm. The ship responded to his presence, lights flickering in approval. "You think you can challenge me?" Zorath sneered. "This human will die before he even leaves the dock." Ethan didn't answer. Instead, he engaged the ship's primary systems. Feeling the AI stir beneath him, the vessel responded instantly. Systems awakening that had been dormant for decades. Energy conduits along the hull began to glow bright blue, then pulsing white. The engine roared, not in sound but in a vibration that made the entire dockyard feel alive. The Varkonians struck first. Their ships launched high-energy beams, intended to disable Ethan's craft before it even moved. But the scrap starship was faster than expected. Using the adaptive propulsion system, Ethan dodged the beams, weaving through the air with precision that even the Varkonians could not anticipate. "Impossible!" one of the aliens shouted. "No human could maneuver like that." Ethan smiled faintly. You're underestimating humans again. The ship hummed as if pleased. Panels shifted, forming shields that deflected incoming fire. Ethan realized that the AI was not just reacting, it was predicting. It had been testing him all along, and now it trusted him enough to cooperate fully. He began to experiment, minor maneuvers at first, spinning, flipping, adjusting velocity in ways that seemed impossible. The Varkonians fired again, but Ethan was always a step ahead. Every move he made, the ship enhanced, creating a symphony of human ingenuity and alien technology. Hours passed. The trade hub watched in amazement. What had begun as a human fixing a scrap starship had turned into a demonstration of skill, courage, and creativity. Aliens who once laughed now whispered nervously. Zorath's three eyes widened as he watched Ethan outmaneuver his rivals. He's using the ship like it's alive, he muttered. But that's impossible. It's just a machine. Ethan ignored him. The neural interface connected him more deeply to the ship. He could feel its thoughts, its hesitations, and its hidden potential. The AI was no longer testing him. It was guiding him. You like me now? Ethan asked softly, a hint of a grin on his face. The ship pulsed, lights flashing in affirmation. By evening, the Varkonians were retreating, their pride wounded and their confidence shattered. The crowd erupted in astonishment. Humans, weak, fragile humans, had outsmarted the best pilots the galaxy had ever known, using a ship everyone had called junk. Ethan climbed out of the cockpit, exhausted but exhilarated. His hands were scratched, his clothes torn from the effort of wiring and maneuvering, but his eyes sparkled with triumph. One of the younger Krylonians who had been observing from the sidelines approached him nervously. Human, that ship, how did you do it? Ethan smiled gently. It's not just about the ship, he said. It's about understanding it. About seeing potential where others only see scrap. Humans, we adapt. We improvise. We don't just follow rules. We make new ones. The Krylonian blinked, clearly impressed. Even Zorath seemed at a loss for words. As night fell, Ethan returned to the cockpit. The city lights reflected off the hull, making the ship glow in a ghostly, almost supernatural way. He connected to the AI once more, feeling the ship's pulse sync with his own heartbeat. We're just getting started, he whispered. There's more you can show me, isn't there? The ship responded with a low, resonant hum, almost like laughter. Ethan grinned. The galaxy had mocked humans, had laughed at the scrap starship. But now, it was clear that humans were not so easily dismissed. Tomorrow, he thought, he would push the ship even further. He would unlock more of its secrets. The aliens who mocked him today would see that this scrap starship was no longer a joke. It was a force to be reckoned with. And deep within the glowing hull, the AI core stirred, fully awake now, recognizing its pilot as one worthy of its trust. Together, they were beginning to awaken a sleeping giant, one that would change the way the galaxy thought about humans forever. Ethan leaned back, exhausted, but smiling. The work ahead was enormous. There were systems to master, hidden features to uncover, and challenges to face. But he had learned something crucial today. Humans could do the impossible. All it took was courage, ingenuity, and a willingness to see what others could not. And in the quiet of the workshop, surrounded by tools, wires, and the hum of a living starship, Ethan Voss felt something he hadn't felt in years: hope. Tomorrow, the real test would begin. The next day, the sun barely pierced the dusty skies of Krylon. 7, and yet the streets of the trade hub were already buzzing. Word had spread across multiple sectors. The human mechanic, Ethan Voss, had awakened the so-called scrap starship. Rumors of his skill, his courage, and the ship's unusual behavior traveled faster than any merchant could. Ethan, however, was focused entirely on the task ahead. The ship had settled into a quiet hum overnight, almost as if it had been resting, gathering energy. He climbed into the cockpit, fingers brushing over the neural interface, feeling the familiar pulse of the ship syncing with his heartbeat. Today, he thought, they would see something truly unexpected. Across the hub, the Varkonians were gathering. Their pride had been wounded by the previous day's display, and they were not willing to let a human, an untrained, fragile human, make them look foolish twice. Their sleek ships hovered in formation, weapons glinting in the rising sun. Around them, Zorath and his companions whispered, plotting to humiliate Ethan once and for all.
"You think he can beat us?"
hissed Zorath, glaring at the human from the edge of the dock. "This is his last chance. If he survives today, we may need to reconsider our assumptions," the Varkonian captain sneered. "One mistake and his ship will be nothing but scrap again. Let's see what this human thinks he can do." Ethan didn't respond. Instead, he ran a quick systems check. The ship's AI had shifted overnight. It was no longer merely responding to him. It was anticipating his moves, suggesting solutions, optimizing engine power, and even subtly rearranging energy flows in preparation for battle. The neural interface pulsed gently as if acknowledging his thoughts. Ethan's lips curved in a slight grin. "All right then, let's dance." With a soft hiss and a surge of energy, the scrap starship lifted off the workshop floor. The surrounding crowd gasped. Humans were known for ingenuity, yes, but no one had ever seen one pilot a ship like this. The vessel moved fluidly, almost like a creature rather than a machine, weaving around obstacles with grace that defied logic. The Varkonians launched their first attack. High-intensity plasma beams lanced towards the human craft, designed to cripple the engines instantly. Ethan's heart raced, but his mind stayed clear. With a slight flick of his hands, the ship shifted its engines, dodging the beams with impossible precision. The AI chimed softly in his mind, a subtle confirmation that his instincts were correct. Every move Ethan made, the ship enhanced, predicting the next attack, adjusting shields, and rerouting energy to defensive nodes. "Impossible!" shouted the Varkonian captain as his fleet struggled to keep up. "How can a human pilot a ship like that?" Ethan smirked, leaning into the controls. Not just a human who understands what the ship wants to do. The battle escalated quickly. Alien ships attempted complex maneuvers, banking sharply and firing in coordinated volleys. But Ethan and his ship were always a step ahead. When a plasma beam was aimed at a corner of the hull, the ship twisted mid-air, allowing the beam to harmlessly miss. When multiple ships tried to surround him, the starship's adaptive energy conduits projected temporary shields and shifted weight to slip through gaps the aliens hadn't even noticed. By mid-battle, the trade hub had cleared most of its citizens to safe zones, leaving a silent crowd on the edges, mesmerized. Aliens whispered to each other, astonished. The human, they thought, would break within minutes. Instead, he danced among their fleet with a combination of daring, quick thinking, and instinctual creativity. At one point, Ethan noticed a Varkonian ship closing in from behind. It was faster than the others, sleek and deadly. Their weapon systems locked onto his ship's rear engines. Without thinking, he extended the ship's auxiliary conduits, creating a temporary energy mirror that deflected the attack back toward the pursuing ship. The beam struck, sending the alien vessel spiraling out of control. The crowd erupted in murmurs of shock. The Varkonians themselves were stunned. How could one human in a ship everyone said was scrap defeat their most advanced crafts? As the battle continued, Ethan realized that the scrap starship had more hidden systems yet to be unlocked. He shifted his focus to the dormant weapon arrays, carefully rerouting energy through the AI-assisted conduits. Panels opened, revealing cannon systems that had been sealed for decades. The alien fleet noticed the movement but could not react fast enough. Ethan fired a warning shot, more of a display than an attack, and it obliterated a nearby floating debris cluster, creating a dazzling light show. The Varkonians flinched. They were learning painfully that they were no longer in control. The ship pulsed, almost excitedly, as if acknowledging that it was finally being used to its full potential. Ethan grinned, feeling a thrill he hadn't felt since he first purchased the vessel. "You've got more to show me, don't you?" The AI responded subtly, adjusting power and energy flow, increasing maneuverability and defensive capability. Ethan realized that the ship was teaching him as much as he was teaching it. Every system unlocked, every reaction anticipated was a collaboration between human creativity and alien technology. Hours passed, though it felt like minutes. The aliens, exhausted and humiliated, began to retreat. Their once confident formation had fallen apart. One by one they fled, leaving the scrap starship hovering victorious above the trade hub. Ethan lowered the engines and landed smoothly back near his workshop. The crowd erupted into cheers. Some human, some alien, all astonished. The Varkonians, now distant and silent, would not challenge him again any time soon. Zorath approached, his expression a mixture of disbelief and begrudging respect. I did not expect this, he admitted quietly. Perhaps humans are more than we thought. Ethan nodded, wiping sweat from his brow. We adapt. We improvise. And we don't just see what's there. We see what could be. Zorath looked away, silent. The lesson had been harsh, but it was clear. The galaxy would no longer underestimate a human, especially one with ingenuity and courage like Ethan's. Later that night, Ethan remained in the cockpit. The stars stretched endlessly outside the transparent canopy, reflecting off the hull. He connected to the AI again, letting the neural interface flow between them. You performed well today, he said softly. We outsmarted them all. The ship pulsed gently, a vibration that felt almost like laughter. Ethan smiled. Good, but this is only the beginning. There's more out there, more challenges, more battles, and we'll face them all together. He ran simulations mapping potential upgrades, hidden weapons, and energy reserves. The AI responded to his ideas, suggesting enhancements, alerting him to hidden compartments, and even hinting at capabilities that no human or alien had ever thought to use. Ethan felt a surge of excitement. The galaxy had doubted him. They had mocked his scrap starship, but he had shown them that humans were not to be underestimated. Intelligence, creativity, and courage could overcome brute strength and advanced technology. He leaned back, taking a deep breath. The workshop was quiet, but he could feel the pulse of the ship beneath him. It had chosen him, and he had proven worthy. Tomorrow, he thought, they would leave Krylon. 7. There were larger challenges waiting, systems to explore, hidden threats to confront, and galaxies that would never see a human coming. The stars outside shimmered like distant eyes watching, waiting for what came next. And in that moment, Ethan Voss knew one thing for certain. The scrap starship was no longer a joke. It was a weapon, a companion, and a legend in the making. And together, human and ship, they would face the galaxy, unafraid, unstoppable, and unforgettable. The galaxy had grown quiet around Krylon. 7. The trade hub buzzed with whispers of the human mechanic and his scrap starship. Humans were still rare in this sector, and most species were wary, half curious and half skeptical. But Ethan Voss didn't care about whispers or skepticism anymore. He had a mission, and his ship, alive, aware, and waiting, was ready. The next challenge was unlike anything he had faced before. Across the system, a rogue fleet of alien marauders had been terrorizing trade routes, raiding cargo ships, and attacking settlements. Their technology was advanced, their tactics brutal, and they had never faced humans in combat. Yet the AI had detected their approach, and its pulses thrummed through the ship, anticipating what was to come. Ethan strapped himself into the cockpit, neural interface connecting him to the living starship. Every system hummed in response. Ready. Let's see what you've got, he murmured, feeling the AI's subtle excitement. The fleet appeared as the ship broke through the upper atmosphere. Sleek, black vessels, armed to the teeth, spread across the starfield like a swarm of predatory insects. Each one bristled with weapons, shields, and engines, capable of outrunning most ships in the sector. The marauder captain, a towering alien named Krylonax, saw Ethan's ship hovering alone and laughed, a sound that shook the metallic walls of his command ship. A human? Alone? You dare challenge us? You are nothing but scrap. Ethan didn't flinch. Not scrap. Not human weakness. This is human ingenuity. The AI pulsed, syncing with his heartbeat, and the ship's panels shifted, preparing hidden weapon arrays. Systems that had remained dormant for decades now awakened, glowing and humming with energy. The first wave of attacks came in moments. High-energy plasma beams streaked toward Ethan's ship, each shot designed to destroy instantly. He dove, twisted, and flipped mid-air, dodging with impossible precision. The ship's AI guided him subtly, anticipating trajectories, calculating angles, and rerouting power to defensive nodes. But these marauders were not ordinary opponents. They adapted quickly, using synchronized attacks to try and trap him. One ship lunged from the flank, engines screaming while another fired a concentrated beam from above. Ethan smiled. Okay, time to show you what humans can really do. With a rapid sequence of taps on the control panels, the AI responded instantly. Energy conduits along the hull shifted, forming adaptive shields that absorbed the beams while simultaneously redirecting small amounts of energy back toward the attackers. The ship twisted mid-air, dodging and countering with elegance. A nearby marauder fired at close range expecting a clean hit, but Ethan's ship rotated using a hidden thruster system to redirect the attack. The beam struck another marauder ship, sending it spinning into a nearby asteroid. The battle escalated. Ethan didn't just survive, he outsmarted them. He discovered hidden weapon arrays along the hull, missile tubes and energy cannons sealed behind sliding panels. The AI opened them automatically when it sensed the optimal attack sequence. Ethan unleashed a precise volley, disabling 3 ships in seconds. Krelanax's laughter turned into a roar of fury. Impossible! How can one human, one scrap starship, defeat my fleet? Ethan's grin widened. You're about to find out. The ship pulsed, its energy flowing through every system. Panels opened, conduits glowed, and the engines shifted. It was no longer a scrap starship. It was a living weapon. One that recognized and trusted its pilot. The AI had fully synchronized with Ethan, anticipating every thought, every move. Krylonax sent his flagship forward, weapons fully charged. The alien ship was massive, bristling with firepower, and shielded by layers of energy defenses. Many pilots would have frozen at the sight of it. But Ethan didn't hesitate. He focused, syncing with the AI. The ship's energy flowed in harmony with his thoughts. Hidden systems activated, and a new capability revealed itself. Energy distortion fields, designed to bend light and warp movement, making the vessel almost invisible while simultaneously redirecting enemy fire. Ethan twisted the ship sharply. The flagship fired its main cannon, deadly, concentrated, unstoppable, or so it thought. The blast passed harmlessly, redirected by the energy distortion field. Ethan countered with a series of pulses, targeting the flagship's engines. Sparks flew as critical systems overloaded, and the massive alien ship shuddered, unable to track the small, unpredictable human vessel. The smaller marauder ships tried to flank him, but Ethan had anticipated every angle. Using a combination of agility, quick thinking, and the AI's guidance, he turned their own attacks against them. One by one, the marauders' ships were disabled or forced to retreat. Energy beams reflected off shields. Missiles were dodged or redirected. And the adaptive propulsion system allowed Ethan to weave through even the tightest formations. The trade hub watchers, observing from afar, were amazed. A single human had turned the tide against an entire fleet of marauders. Aliens who had once mocked humanity were silent, their arrogance shattered. Krylonax roared in fury, attempting one final desperate assault with his flagship. He fired every weapon simultaneously, creating a storm of energy meant to overwhelm Ethan's ship. The scrap starship pulsed in response. The AI core hummed, directing every ounce of energy into defensive maneuvers. Panels shifted, weapons primed, engines adjusted. Ethan felt the surge of power, the living ship responding fully to his commands. He executed a maneuver no one had expected. The ship twisted, flipped, and accelerated with unimaginable speed, dodging every attack while simultaneously firing concentrated energy pulses directly at the flagship. The alien ship shuddered, its shields flickering and failing under the combined assault. With one final synchronized strike, the flagship's engines overloaded. Sparks and energy arcs danced across its hull before it spiraled into a nearby asteroid field, defeated. Silence fell. The remaining marauders, now leaderless and demoralized, fled the system. The stars seemed to shimmer as if acknowledging the victory. Ethan lowered his engines, landing gracefully near the trade hub. The ship's glow softened, panels retracting, systems humming gently. Ethan climbed out of the cockpit, exhausted but triumphant. Around him, the crowd, human and alien alike, erupted in cheers. Some aliens who had mocked humans for centuries bowed their heads in respect. Zorth approached once more, eyes wide and voice quiet.
I underestimated you.
And your species, humans. You are far more than I ever imagined. Ethan nodded, wiping dirt and sweat from his face. We adapt. We improvise. And when we are pushed to the edge, we find strength no one expects. The crowd cheered again. Humans, once dismissed as fragile, had proven that courage, creativity, and determination could overcome even the most advanced alien technology. Later in the quiet of his workshop, Ethan returned to the cockpit. The stars stretched endlessly above Krylon. 7. Reflecting in the ship's hull, he connected once more to the eye, feeling its pulse like a heartbeat syncing with his own. We did it, he said softly. They'll never underestimate humans again. The ship responded with a gentle vibration, a sound that felt almost like laughter. Ethan smiled.
Good, but this is just the beginning.
There's more out there, more systems, more challenges, and we'll face them together. The AI pulsed brighter, almost like a nod of agreement. Ethan leaned back, exhausted but exhilarated. He had discovered that humans were not just survivors. They were innovators, strategists, and warriors when pushed to their limits. And together, human and ship, they were unstoppable. Days later, the legend of the human mechanic and his scrap starship spread across star systems. Merchants, traders, and pilots told the story. A human had defeated marauders, outsmarted fleets, and awakened a starship long thought to be junk. The ship itself became a symbol of human potential, a living testament to ingenuity, courage, and perseverance. And Ethan, the mechanic who refused to be mocked, had shown the galaxy that humans were not to be underestimated. As he prepared for the next mission, staring out at the endless stars, Ethan whispered to the ship, "We're just getting started. The galaxy doesn't know what's coming." The ship pulsed in response, its energy flowing like a living heartbeat. The adventure was far from over. The galaxy would soon learn that humans, no matter how underestimated, were capable of greatness beyond imagination. And somewhere deep within the hull, the AI smiled, knowing that it had found a pilot worthy of legend. Together, they would shape the future. The stars twinkled above Krylon, 7 silent witnesses to the rise of human ingenuity and the power of courage, creativity, and determination.